You never really know what your hometown smells like until you've been gone too long. I hadn't been back to Greer in over a decade. That it's a nowhere town in Pennsylvania, the kind of place that doesn't show up on tourist maps, but somehow survives anyway. Just rows of aging houses with peeling paint, too many broken down swing sets, and a main street that shuts down at 6 p.m. sharp. I left when I was 18 and never planned to return. But my mum died that spring, and I got the call on a Tuesday. "You should come home for Easter," my cousin said. "Everyone's gathering. It's important this year. Important." That word never meant anything good in Greer, but guilt does funny things to memory. So I packed a bag, rented a car, and drove 7 hours through the rusted arteries of Pennsylvania until I saw the cracked wooden sign, "Welcome to Greer EST, 1889. The air smelled like burning mulch and wet iron. My childhood house looked smaller than I remembered. The porch sagged. The garden was gone. The wind chimes my mum used to hang were missing. In their place was a single nail, rusted and bent like a crooked finger pointing nowhere. My Aunt Lydia answered the door. She hadn't aged. Not really, just ... Hardened, her eyes used to smile when she saw me. Now, they just checked if I was alone. "You didn't bring anyone, right?" she asked immediately. I shook my head. She stepped aside. Good. Inside, the house felt colder than the outside. There was a fireplace, but no fire. Family photos lined the walls, but the faces seemed ... different. My Uncle Henry was there. So was Cousin Ben. They looked like statues of themselves, posed, stiff, wrong, and no one mentioned Easter. No eggs, no decorations, no pastel colors, no chocolate bunnies, just soup. Just silence. And a single sentence from my aunt delivered, like a prayer before sleep. "No one goes near the yellow house." I didn't remember any yellow house in Greer, but no one elaborated. They talked about the weather, the roads, the new grocery store in town, but never about church, or Good Friday, or the reason I was even there. That night, I asked Ben about it while we smoked outside. He looked at me like I was naive, like I'd missed the memo. "Do you remember what happened to Caleb?" he asked. "Caleb, the kid who used to live on 3rd Street. We were in 7th grade together. He vanished around Easter. They said his family moved, but no one had ever confirmed it." Ben just shook his head. "There's no new family in their place. There never was. The house is still there, but ... not really." I asked if it was the yellow house. He didn't answer. He just dropped his cigarette and stepped on it. "Don't look at it," he said. "Just go to the cemetery Sunday and leave something sweet." "What?" He didn't repeat it. Just went inside. That night, I dreamt of my childhood street, but every house was painted yellow, and all the doors were gone. Only windows, and behind each window, a figure stood, smiling. In Greer, things don't get demolished. They get buried in silence. The next morning, I took a walk. It was Good Friday, but the streets were empty. Not everyone's at church empty. Deserted, shutters closed, cars unmoved. Even the dogs were silent. I walked past the old elementary school, still boarded up since the fire in 2003. No one ever rebuilt it, just left it there, like a wound the town refused to heal. Then I saw it, the yellow house. It sat at the end of Willow Lane, like a dead thought at the end of a dream. 2 stories, peeling yellow paint, black windows that reflected nothing, There was something wrong about its proportions, like it had been drawn from memory. Too tall, too narrow dot, no mailbox, no curtains, no path leading to the door, just a patch of dirt where grass refused to grow, and yet the door was wide open. I took a step closer, and the front door closed, not slammed, not pushed by wind, just closed gently, as if someone had been waiting for me to see it open, and then decided I'd seen enough. I walked away fast, didn't run. I didn't want to look like prey, but I could feel it, like being watched through glass you can't see. When I got back, my aunt asked if I had gone for a walk. I lied. She didn't believe me, but she didn't say anything. Instead, she handed me a small jar. "Put this on the grave," she said. Sunday morning, inside the jar was honey, thick, golden, and shimmering strangely. There was something suspended in it, a dark fleck, too big to be dust, too light to be bone. "You still remember where he's buried, don't you?" she added. I didn't answer because I didn't know who he was, but my hands took the jar anyway. That night, the silence in the house changed. It wasn't quiet anymore. It was muffled, like sound was being absorbed by the walls. I tried to listen to music, but my headphones crackled. The TV wouldn't turn on. The air smelled like wet sugar. At 3:06 a.m., I heard a knock on the window of my childhood room. Not the door, the second-story window. I froze, didn't move, didn't breathe. The knock came again. Then a pause, and then ... fingernails dragging across the glass. I stayed awake until the sun came up. When I finally looked out, there were no prints. But in the yard below, a small patch of grass was burned black. The next morning, I asked my uncle about the yellow house. He didn't deny it. He just said, "It was never ours." I asked, "Whose is it?" He looked at the honey jar in my hands. "That depends. Who remembers? Some towns bury things that don't die. They just wait." Easter morning in Greya looked nothing like spring. The sky was leaden, the birds were gone, and the whole town smelled like burnt candy. I carried the jar of honey in my jacket pocket. It felt warmer than it should have been, like something inside it was alive, pulsing softly, feeding. I walked to the cemetery just past the southern edge of town. The old one, the one with the crooked stones and names no one remembers. The gate wasn't locked, just rusted shut, but when I touched it, it opened, smoothly, almost like it had been waiting. The grave I stopped at had no name, just a stone, worn smooth, unmarked. But someone had left teeth on top of it, baby teeth, arranged in a perfect circle. I started to back away, but something behind me whispered, "It's yours." I spun around. No one there. I looked back down. The teeth were gone, and in their place, a small egg. Not a plastic one, not candy, but an egg like a robin might lay, except it was painted yellow, and it was cracked open. Sticky fluid seeped out, the same color as the honey in my pocket. I dropped the jar. The glass didn't break. Instead, the lid unscrewed on its own, and I swear I heard it sigh. I ran. I didn't look back. Not until I was halfway down the block, and when I finally glanced over my shoulder, I saw him, a boy, standing beside the grave. No eyes, mouth sewn shut, holding the jar, smiling. Home. No one asked me what happened. They just watched me, carefully, like I might break. That night, no one ate. No one spoke. At midnight, I heard something outside. Again this time. A melody, faint, childlike, the sound of a music box, playing Here Comes Peter Cottontail, off-key, slowed down, each note dragging like a broken hinge. I peeked out the window. There, on the porch, was another egg, painted yellow, cracked dot inside. Something twitching. I closed the curtains, turned off the lights, and waited for morning. At dawn, the egg was gone, but the honey jar was back, full again, and warm. They never said what came back, just that it wasn't what went in. I tried to leave Greer the next morning, packed my bag, started the car, but the road out of town was wrong, twisted, repeating the same pothole 3 times, the same bent stop sign, the same crow, dead in the middle of the road. Eyes open, beaks split. Every exit led back to Willow Lane, and standing at the end of it, the yellow house now, the door was open again. And this time, it stayed open. I could see something inside. Not clearly, just shape, movement, like a shadow crawling across the walls, looking for its skin. I went back to the house. My aunt was standing in the kitchen, holding a photograph. It was old, faded. A group of kids, smiling, holding baskets, an Easter photo, probably from the 80s. She pointed to one boy near the edge. "You remember him?" I didn't. She nodded, double quotes good. She turned the photo around. The back had a name, mine, only. The handwriting wasn't hers. It wasn't mine either. She said nothing else, just handed me a folded piece of paper. On it, a map of the town, hand-drawn, every house marked, except one, where the yellow house should have been. Just a black X dot, and next to it, scribbled, "Do not let him come back again." That night, I stayed awake, listened. No music box, no footsteps, just whispering low, continuous, like a sermon being repeated over and over by something that had forgotten how to use a voice. I followed it, out the front door, into the street, past the cemetery to the edge of the woods, where a new sign had been posted overnight. Easter sunrise service 6 a.m., except no one in town ever held a sunrise service. Not anymore. Not since... The woods were colder than they should have been. Every branch leaned the wrong way, toward the center, toward something pulling. I found a clearing with rows of chairs, all facing a flat stone altar, covered in honey sitting. On top of the altar, a costume, a rabbit suit, old, matted, stained with something that wasn't mud, and beside it, a note. "One must wear the skin, or the skin will choose." I ran again, but the trees didn't move the right way. The path was gone. Every trail led deeper, and at the center of it all, I saw him, the boy from the grave, now taller, older, still eyeless, still smiling, and next to him, another me, same clothes, same face, holding a basket, and inside the basket, my memories, Polaroids of things I never lived, photos of people who no longer exist. He whispered something, and the trees leaned in to hear it. I woke up in bed. The honey jar was beside me, still warm, but now it had my name written on it, in my own handwriting. We didn't stop celebrating Easter. We started hiding from it. The morning of Easter Sunday arrived like an infection, slow, creeping, and wrong. The sky was yellow. The air was heavy. The sun didn't rise. It leaked like something, dying behind a curtain. I walked through town. Every house had eggs on the porch, cracked open. Empty. The people. They were inside, but not hiding, waiting. Every window filled with pale faces, mouths shut, eyes watching, but not blinking, not moving, as if they'd been there for hours, or days, or years. The church bell rang once, then silence. I followed the path to the cemetery again. I didn't bring the honey jar. It had vanished sometime during the night. Or maybe I gave it away in my sleep. At the unmarked grave, there was a hole. Now, freshly dug. But no shovel, just handprints, fingernail grooves, and a trail leading back into town. I followed it. It led to the yellow house. This time, the door was not only open, it was welcoming. The interior was no longer rotting. It was clean, polished, prepared. A long table stretched from the foyer to the back wall, covered in Easter. But everything was off. The eggs were bleeding. The chocolate bunnies were hollow, filled with teeth. The jelly beans were eyes, still twitching, and, at the head of the table, a seat, high-backed, carved with my name, and something inside me knew. Sit, or be served. I took a step back, but my feet didn't move. The floor was breathing, softly. Rhythmically, the whole house was alive, and it remembered me. It knew me because I had been here before, not in this life, but in another, a part of Grea's cycle. A returning. They didn't bring me home to mourn my mother. They brought me home because someone has to wear the skin every 7 Easters. Someone has to feed the grave. And this year, it was my turn. The boy was there again. No longer a boy. He wore the rabbit suit now. It wasn't cloth. It was flesh, stitched and stretched around his frame. Eyes hollow. Teeth long and yellow. He didn't speak, just extended his hand. And in it, my name, carved into an egg. I took it, because some horrors don't end when you run. They end when you accept your place in them, when you remember your role. I was the sacrifice, the guest of honor, the resurrection, but not the holy kind. And now, I sit in the yellow house every Easter, waiting, watching, until someone returns to Greya. Someone who forgot, someone who once lived here, someone who thinks they're visiting. And when they do, I'll be at the head of the table, with the jar, with the eggs, with the suit, waiting for them to put it on. Because no one really leaves Greya. We just take turns.